Hey you guys, it's Dani. Are you ready for the 2021 collection videos? Let's start with tarot. Let's break these down a little bit, okay? So last year we broke these down into kind of like vibes, right? Like light, dark, kind of mid-tone vibes. I think this year what I want to do is kind of go with the way that I use them, because I know some people asked about, oh, instead of collections, like how do you use your decks, or which ones do you use the most kind of idea. So I think I want to kind of mix those together, and we'll do kind of the most used, middle use, kind of background decks, and then ones that are in purgatory. I'm pulling a Lisa, and I have quite a few decks that are kind of hanging out. I did give away and sell quite a few this year, but I still have a bit of a pile that I'm like still thinking about, and some that still need a new home. So I'm kind of like, I got a limbo section, so you can look for those. But without further ado, let's talk tarot. Here we are at the table. Let's go ahead and start with the most used decks of 2021. I want to start with the Intuitive Night Goddess Tarot. Y'all. Okay, so I missed it on Kickstarter. I had went back and forth, didn't know. It's got this lovely box and this really great companion guide, actually. These are the backs. So I missed it on Kickstarter because I kept going back and forth. This deck got picked up mass market, and again, I was holding out. I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Maybe I won't like it. But people kept sending it to me, like, Dani, I just really think you'd like this. And I kept seeing it everywhere, and I was like, you know what? Let me do this. Y'all, I could kick myself for not doing this sooner, because I have used this deck for just about every type of reading out there. Like, I've used it for inner child work. I've used it for ancestry. I've used it for love readings. I've used it for careers. I've used it, oh my gosh, I've used the hell out of it for year ahead readings. When I tell you that it is so, intuitive. It's in the name, right? It is so intuitive. It really is. And I thought, oh, this is going to be limiting. It is just like people and botanicals, and there's not much going on, but I was completely wrong. I was wrong. So I have used the hell out of this. Probably my favorite thing to read for clients with right now, if I'm being honest. Like I said, year aheads, it's been superb. Like right up there with the next deck that I'm going to talk to you about. Let me transition. The Revival Art Tarot. Because I use this deck, and my poor box. I use this deck so much. I always love to use it for year aheads. And when I tell you that the Intuitive Night Goddess really gave this deck a run for its money when it came to that, because I feel like when I'm going to year aheads, when I'm doing something that's kind of, I'm going to say pretty vague, right? Because I have, 1 month at a time, just a little snippet, a little look. I want something that is not only intuitive, but like has some substance to it, where it's like, it's going to give me as much as I need. And this deck has been a favorite of mine, again, since I've gotten it. And I just don't put it down. I don't put it away. It stays in my collection. And I feel like the Night Goddess is really up in arms with this one, in being kind of the same idea and the same usefulness, a workhorse, if you will. And these are probably my top decks when it comes to kind of workhorse decks, along with, of course, Mystic Masters. So, again, workhorse completely. I know this deck in and out. I don't know, it just speaks to me in more ways than one. Not only because I've added my space to it, you know, my art to it, but because these pictures, there's something about these faces, these bodies, these situations that we can see in such minute detail. There's just something about it that really speaks to me and like really brings out almost that esoteric vibe into a more tangible space. You know, this ethereal kind of essence that it has just in the image itself. It just brings out so much. And I will say, for those of you who've been paying attention to my posts on Instagram, we may be looking at a small revamp to Mystic Masters. I'm not going to say anything else. Just keep your eye out, okay? Because I feel like there can be a little tweaking. So, aside from these three main workhorse decks, let's get into a couple more that I've been using the hell out of in 2021. So, one of the most obvious that it seems like it'll always be there. It'll always be on my top decks that I work with. It's the Druid Craft Tarot. Because, I don't know, it's classic and I love the vibes. I always want to pull it out. Springtime, fall, those are my months to really dive in to this energy. It's classic art. It is beautiful. I actually have another copy that is untrimmed completely. This is trimmed, not only the borders, but also the inner borders and words have been trimmed completely off. And so this is my borderless version of the Druid Craft that came in the small box with the little booklet. But I did buy the bigger one with the big booklet with the big booklet because I wanted to read more about it. I wanted to be more in depth. Did you hear me almost hiccup there? I'm so sorry. Anyway, Druid Craft is always on the top of my list, along with what I consider to be its brother, the Wildwood Tarot. Again, another one that I bring out seasonally. It gives me winter vibes. I use them right now. Fall, spring. The only time I really don't utilize it, honestly, I don't bring it out at least once, is the summertime. I don't know why. Summer has such a distinct feel to me, though. Oop. I just feel like it's not watery enough for summer. Like, summer feels really watery to me. And this just has, like, spring, fall, winter. I can see it all in here more so than I see summer. And so, it's my go-to for these times. And also another one that just kind of always hangs around. This makes me feel like the Druid Craft and the Wildwood just really always make me feel connected and grounded. And that's what I'm really looking for when it comes to my practice in general. I want to feel connected and grounded, and I just feel like they do a spectacular job of it. Speaking of grounded, let's talk about the Majestic Earth Tarot. I've been loving this. I've used it so much during the year. Again, it's got a great little guidebook. I keep these little extra ones off to the side, but you just like the title card and the landscapes. I keep those out of the actual deck itself. But this was another one where, like, I wasn't quite sure how well I was going to like it, but it keeps going out of print. And when it popped up some imperfect, which I can't find where the imperfection is, these imperfect decks that came up for sale, I ran to my computer. I snatched it up. I was like, I gotta have it. I've gotta see it. I need it in my hands. And I have used it a lot during the year. It gives really good readings. I've used it for myself. I've used it for clients, which I didn't know if it was going to be a good idea, because I usually like to have, you know, something that they can see themselves in, but at the same time, like, you can see yourself in every single one of these because it's landscapes, you know? And another one that did that for me that I was sent this year, I feel like is a companion, whereas this is the natural landscape. The Augenblick is the city version. It's more industrial. I mean, it does still have landscapes, but these are more interior settings. And again, I used it so much because I feel like you can just see yourself in these places. I've used it for clients and myself alike, because sometimes it's about how it feels to be in this space. Whether you recognize it or not, right? You can still take a look at these images and be transported there. And it just works really well with my intuition, because I've been checking vibes since I was a very, very little girl, where I would walk into a room or walk into a place and just immediately gauge the energy of the space and the room. And so it kind of harkens back to that, where it's like it feels very natural to read with for me. Continuing with that grounding energy is the Pagan Otherworld's Tarot up next. So it has these really beautiful shiny moon phases. I do keep those separate. I use them sometimes, but they're not like a staple that kind of stays in the card. These, again, I use for anyone and everyone. I just feel like this has a very kind of soft, how do I describe it? It's a soft vibe because the colors are pale, right? They're not super in your face, but there's also like a rawness and a realness to what you see on the card. They're kind of pippish, so it gives you that space again to be in. We have really great and really beautiful court cards and majors, and then we have, like I said, this very spacious minors. It's a very Renaissance type feel to it, but even in the pip style, we have like something to go on. Flowers, houses, country hills, like there are still little peeks into the story behind it. And as someone who likes to kind of read in a style that tells that story of your energy, that tells that story of where you are or where you're going or where you've been, I really appreciate the backgrounds. Even if they're really subtle, there are sometimes that it gives you that narrative that you need. So I really love this deck, and it's got a beautiful tower. Another one on my most used list is that of the Hush Tarot. Now, I know that some people love it and some people hate it, and that's okay. I tend to really enjoy just a lot of stuff going on. You know, not in the sense that it gets, you know, overwhelming and cluttered, but in the sense that, like, I can draw from so many different aspects of the card. And I feel like the Hush Tarot is not only beautiful, but it has those like slight macabre elements to it. And I know some people would be like, slight? There's dead things everywhere. But like, I don't know. It's not always about that. Like, where you see death, someone else may see growth or a mask or, you know, XYZ. I see the macabre beauty of this deck, and it just, I don't know, it excites me. It absolutely excites me. And it is animal heavy, which is very unusual for my taste. But I have 2 animal heavy decks. I'm looking around, looking to make sure I'm not lying to you. Yeah, it looks like I have 2 animal heavy decks in this most used. And the Hush is definitely one of those. Even though it's more than just animals, it is so much and so beautiful. It's totally my aesthetic, and it is definitely a workhorse. And that other animal deck is the Northern Animal Tarot. So I know that this is new to my collection. I got it in the last 2 months of 2021, but I have been using it a lot, so I figured I might as well just add it in there, cause why not? This is one of the most heavily anthropomorphic decks I use, I think. Like I said, I do have others that I use, but like this one, I don't know. I think it's like the whole, like everything that comes along with it, right? Like the whole vibe, the whole package. It's got great cardstock. It's got my style of illustration that I like. It's got adorable creatures. It's got a great color palette. I don't know. I just really connected with this in a way that I just didn't expect. I think that's the best part. And it's got a possum in here, which is like one of my favorite animals. Let me see if I can find him or her. There she is. Beautiful. Love it. Love it. Love it. So, yes. The Northern Animal Tarot is definitely, and hopefully, going to stay a big part of my practice in the next year. Up next, I have some funky vibes coming in. More decks that I absolutely love. You can see my poor damaged box. The Black Lily Tarot. Oh, I was like trying to open it. It doesn't have it anymore. This one is a smaller size deck, maybe bridge size, question mark? I don't know. But the colors, it's all like watercolor. It's like weird line work. It is like wonky images, and it just speaks to me on such another level. So I know this is gonna sound weird, but like all the strange looking bodies and like the undergarments, like you're seeing people with like nylons and bras, like underwear and lingerie, but just in this like really, I don't know, it's almost like grungy vibe. I don't know, it makes me think of the 90s. It makes me think of just like pouring your heart out to someone in the most vulnerable way. And I think maybe that's why I love this deck so much, because it holds those vibes. And I love the watercolor effect. I love these like splashes and all of just the really unique images that come with this deck. But a close runner-up to the Black Lily has definitely been Tarot de Caratides. I talked about this in 3 Fat Readers, how much this deck has just taken over my practice. I love it so much. It's got beautiful backs. But again, it's that same kind of art style with these kind of thin, funky lines. This one has pop culture references, but not to the point that it takes away and it's like, oh, that's from, you know, Midsommar, and that's from this, and there's like the old unicorn tapestry vibes, there's Alice in Wonderland, but it's not blaring, it's not in your face kind of, I don't know, like, I was gonna say like pop art kind of style, or like, I don't even know what you'd call it, like fan art style. This is subtle, in my opinion, and it's beautiful. Of course, y'all know I love a good muted palette, and it definitely has that. It's got David Bowie as the magician, which is always spectacular. I don't know, it's just got so many things that I want to see, and it's done in such a unique way. And all the, again, the same way that the Black Lily has this type of line work, I just find you can hide so much in it. And so there's so much to look at. Anyway, this is definitely on the top of my list, and one that I used a crap ton this past year. Next is one that I got all of my friends to get. That is the Ghosts and Spirits Tarot by Lisa Hunt. I talked about this on 3 Fat Readers as well. And Lisa and Dustin both bought them because it's spectacular. So not only is this artwork so in-depth, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, there is so much to what's going on in here that it's just mind-boggling. And then on top of that, not only do you have your tarot meanings, not only do you have beautiful artwork, but each and every single card has a story to go along with it. And so I just found that absolutely magnificent. I use this so much. I did some really in-depth kind of self-care kind of spreads with it. Some really deep down ancestral work with it. I've just done a ton of stuff. Even just like a regular read. I've pulled this out for just like a little 3-card read, and it never disappoints me. I don't know if it's because there's a story behind it that can be super relatable, in the same way that one that's going to come up a little later, the Tarot of the Divine, I'm like double checking to make sure if that's the name of it, that has all the stories along with the tarot. Like, it's that same kind of way where there just feels like so much you can draw on. So Ghost and Spirits Tarot has been, I bought it in January of 2021, and I used it all year. I was like, I'm gonna use it in, you know, October and Samhain, you know, maybe even when Mabon I used it all year. I used it all year. Well, here comes the rain. I hope it's not too loud. It's loud in here, but hopefully it's not too bad. So, along the same vein of the Ghost and Spirits Tarot, in a way, I don't know, they just remind me of each other. Another one that I used quite a bit was the Cosmic Tarot. This is an older deck, but it's still kind of new to me. But I used this quite a bit this year. It was a very unique. It is, I don't know, like, it makes me giggle, like, some of these images are just, like, really out there to me. But I liked it, and it reads really well. I mean, especially for, you know, for what it is, it feels, like, dated, for sure. But in a really fun way. And there was so much to go on. I really liked pairing this with the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. Like, it just, I don't know. They just kind of played off each other really well. Especially because this one has a tendency of being a little dramatic, if you can't tell. but it's given really in-depth readings, not only for myself, but client readings as well. And I mention client readings so much because, like, some people, and myself included, don't use all of their decks for client readings. And I am definitely one that is a little more, I don't want to say restrictive, but I pay attention to what I'm using and why I'm using it when it comes to clients, because I want to make sure that it's right for that specific purpose. But I have to say, this year, some of the decks that I used, even for my client readings, have really surprised me, because they're not ones that I normally go to, you know? So next on my list is the heavily modified Dreaming Way Tarot that I did. Look at how chunky this thing is now. Oh my gosh. So this is one that kind of sits in the same space, really, as the Druid Craft and the Wildwood, where I use it every year so much. It's not going anywhere. It stays around. I love the winter vibes of this deck. I can't lie, the rain is totally distracting me. It's really loud in here. It's definitely got some winter vibes, and I love using it in the winter time. But this is one that I push into spring, as well as a bit into summer, because it has more of those feels to me. But it's definitely a winter-spring deck, but one that I pull out every year. This is just an oldie but goodie. I've been having this one for a really long time. You know, I didn't like the back, so I redid that. Kind of made it my own. And I feel like I'm even more connected with it since doing that, because I really enjoy it no matter if it's upside down or not. You know what I mean? So I'm really attached to this deck. So it's always going to be on my most used list for that fact. Now, one I love using that I didn't know I was going to, but it has been a favorite for over a year now for sure. I'm pretty sure. And that is the Deck of the Bastard. Now, this was given to me by one of my friends. It is the plastic version. And I was definitely skeptical, because I was like, well, no. Because the old style doesn't go with the RWS style. You know, it's just going to clash. But it doesn't. When you have it in your hand, it does not, I promise you. And we all know that I have a really hard time with, like, mishmash aesthetics. So I am proof that this works. And these are the backs of the deck. Like I said, it is plastic, which I really like the feel of it, because we all know that I'm not a good fanner. But check this out. It makes me look professional. Watch this. I mean, what? Look at that. Just like that. So I really enjoy this because it's classic, but it's different. Now, these also have the keywords on it, which are a lot of fun. Again, something I didn't know I was going to enjoy or not. Sometimes I pay attention to them, sometimes I don't. Just like with any other thing. I find I do that a lot with Oracle decks, where I'm like, oh, well, it has these extra words, or it has something, but, like, I may not pay attention to that at all. That might not be what the reading is about. So, like, I enjoy them being there, because sometimes it's not what I would have immediately went to, but I'm drawn to the words. So, yeah. Anyway, super fun deck. I love it. Another, I'm going to say a classic style deck, because it's, I mean, a mix of both, right? That I'm, like, still super obsessed with is Letero de Marseille Weight. I have this kind of in this, oh, this is a terrible bag. I'm sorry, but it's a terrible bag. But sometimes I shove it in there so I don't want them all floating around and flying around. I need to make my own bag, but I just didn't yet. So this, oh man, it is right up my alley. It has those medieval vibes. It gives me medieval Europe vibes without the great animals, let's be honest. However, the way that this is done with the Marseille and RWS style just gives me life. Because I love the look of Marseille, but I don't use it often. I just don't. Like, I don't use it often. And this, I mean, you'll see throughout this whole collection, it is very rare that I even have, you know, Pip style decks, much less using Maurice heavily. So this kind of checked all the boxes for me. I love the style. I love the feel. I love the artwork. I love the system. And I've used it for just about everything as well. Like, again, one that just fits seamlessly into my practice no matter what I'm doing. Oh my gosh. And probably my favorite tower in this deck with the color palettes. Like, look at this. We have the navies, we have the like maroonish dark reds, like a gold. La Maison Dieu. This tower is everything. I love it so much. Anyway, let's move on to something that I love and don't love at the same time. I use this a lot this year, but it doesn't mean that I don't have little qualms with it. I mean, such is life. Now, I had to turn my lights on because of this rainstorm. I can't use the beautiful sunlight. So I'm going to try to get the best lighting on this as possible because, as you can see, we're shiny. But I mean, as much as I don't care for the changes in production, again, I will reference 3 Fat Readers. We talked about this deck. I really wish it would have been produced in the same fashion as the Oracle. But that doesn't take away the fact that it is a beautiful deck with stunning, stunning pictures and images. The artwork is impeccable, as always. And, like, I can't deny that. And I used it so much. I just wanted to be able to use it in more ways than I can. And that's has a lot to do with the shine and the sheen, which look beautiful. It makes all the images look deeper and darker, which I do appreciate. But I just really wanted to use it with the Oracle, and it just doesn't work in my eyes. Some people do, and they use it all the time, and that's totally fine. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying for me it didn't work. And then I did, like, as big as these are, I trimmed them. I trimmed all the edges around, obviously except for the bottom, but because they were much, much bigger. And I love the fact that the Fool had this, like, crocodile alligator. I was a sucker for it. Anyway, so I love this deck. I did use it a lot, even though I have some little, like, ugh, I wish they would have did this. Like I said, it doesn't take away from the fact that this art style is so beautiful to me. And I don't know, I really appreciate it, and I really love it. And I'm still going to use it, but let me tell you something. If they come out with another version of this that's more, I don't know, maybe more matte or even more similar to the Oracle, I will 100% buy it again. 100% buy it again. So let's talk the Heroine Tarot. Again, another kind of shiny thing. Let me see if I can fix that particular light. Wonderful. Okay, I think we got the light done. So, the Heroine Tarot. This is one that surprised me as to how much I used it. So, while this is beautiful, I mean, look at this. I've had it since 2019, maybe 2000. 2000, oh my god. 2020, 2000. Ooh, bringing it back. Nope. Okay, so I've had it for a while. And while I've always, I mean, I did impulse buy it because it was just so beautiful. And the Lovers is, like, one of my favorite cards in this deck. And there's just so many beautiful depictions. The artwork is very, like, stylish, almost like couture vibes going on. There's so many beautiful ladies in here. But there's a lot of frills and stuff like that. And, like, I loved the white space. I loved the style that it was done in. But I was like, I don't know if I'm going to really use this. But I was surprised. I used it quite a bit. Now, I found that it was very, like, I don't want to say it's a shallow energy. Look at that, lovers. Look at that, lovers. Oh, yeah. So I don't want to say it's like a shallow energy because it's not quite that. But I don't know. I just didn't use it to go like with really in-depth kind of energy, like really deep readings. They were more kind of like surface, which is okay. I mean, I don't have many decks that like kind of sit there on that surface. And so I found that it was really nice. I used it for myself and for others. And I just love some of these depictions. They're just so beautiful. They're so stylized, and it is just a beautiful deck to look at in general, and I appreciate that. But I use this a lot, even all things considered, you know? The last deck in my most used category is a simple everyday tarot. Now, the reason I say I use this the most is because this little deck and box and all this little good stuff that's in here, this usually stays in my house. At my sofa, I have this and an oracle deck that I leave on the side of my chair, like where I sit in the living room. And this is just a basic tarot. Nothing crazy. But, like, sometimes I just want to pull some cards for myself, or, you know, my friends will come over and be like, oh, pull me a card, you know? So I have this at the ready, and I use this kind of just for me. Just as a little piece to keep in my space for whenever I want or need. And it's just... it's small enough, it's chill enough, nothing too frilly about it, just kind of like vectorized images, very monochromatic, but still gets the point across in a cute little way. And so while I don't have anything really in depth or really wonderful to say about this deck, it's one that serves its purpose. Right? Like, it's one that I keep with me to use whenever I see fit, however I see fit, in my space. And while there's nothing spectacular about it, I still love using it, and I use it quite often. So, those are, I think, my most used decks in 2021. Thank you guys so much for watching and for voting to do these collection videos. I always wonder, like, I love watching collection videos, but I guess my collection does change quite a bit because there's always something in and out because I keep my collection a bit small, and right now it's a little inflated. So I guess it does change. So I guess that was my thing. Like, are y'all gonna get bored just like listen to me talk about the same decks over and over again? But I never get tired of them, so thank you for voting, you guys. Anyway, if you are looking for any of these decks, if they are in print, I have put links down to them below. If you are looking for me, my Etsy shop, how to book a reading, 3 Fat Readers, all of that is in the description down below as well. And I hope to see you very soon and wrap up these 2021 collection videos. I'm sending you all of my love. Mwah. Later, Gators.